Welcome everyone to Access User Groups SQL Server with Access. I'm your host, Juan Soto, live from Chicago, Illinois. Tonight we have a very special guest, but before we get to her, I wanted to let you know that we appreciate everybody from joining us. We'd like to do a quick survey. If you can tell us what state or what country you're in, please let us know in the comments there, the conversation. If this is your first time, welcome. Please register at AccessUserGroups.org. I have the website here, and you'll be alerted to our next meeting. Several months ago, 2 months ago, we started our SQL Server with Access Academy, Part 1, which that video is already up on the web. You can see it here at SQL Server with Access group page. And next month in December, we'll continue with the intermediate, followed by in January with the advanced. So here's the Part 1. Please take a look at that. And we'll continue with the academy, something that we started doing this year, and we hope to continue every year. Because what I would notice is people would get started with SQL Server with Access, and I have a lot of blog posts on that. In fact, I have a blog post at accessexperts.com/start here for those people who want to get started. And but I noticed that there's every day more and more people are joining the movement, and so I thought that we always start our schedule, which starts in September, with Academy. And so next September we'll start again with Academy with the 3-month part, and then after that we'll go into more topics with SQL Server and Access. But tonight's a really special night because we have Michal Bar from Microsoft Access team. She is a senior program manager, fresh off her visit at Nuremberg Access conference. There's a photo of her there speaking at the event. And one of the reasons that I love working with Michal is she knows how to listen. She knows how to listen to customers. She knows how to listen to Access MVPs. She knows how to listen to the public and large. And to me, she is the face of Access. She travels the world speaking at conferences. I had the chance to present with her 2 years ago at Microsoft Ignite, the first time Access had been invited to come to Microsoft Ignite, and she repeated again this year, so I'm really excited about that. And we're happy to have her, so welcome, Michal.
Thank you. Now that I'm blushing here, thank you. Let me share my screen first. So.
And by the way, she's gonna do a presentation, then we're gonna do a question and answer at the end. So if you have any questions, please hold it to the end.
So good evening, good morning. I see there are people from all around the world here, which is very exciting. My name is Michal. I am a program manager on the Access team. I'm very honored to be here and see so many people that are interested in what we have to share and what we have to say. I didn't quite know how to name this session because there's so many things that I'd love to talk about. So I just called it Access Updates. But I'm going to focus on Link Table Manager, which is what Juan asked me to do. But then I'm going to talk about other things as well. So I think I can get started. One quick note. So when I'm presenting, Juan, I can't quite see the chat window. So if there are questions or things I should stop and answer, just let me know. Okay?
I will. No problem.
Perfect. Okay, great. And I will leave time for questions and for questions at the end, and hopefully I'll have answers for everyone. So let's get started. I want to start with just talking about where Access is today. What is the current state of Access? So as you all know, this is a veteran. This is quite an old product in software world, not in humans world. A bit over 25 years, and that means that it's a very mature product. It's very rich in features. It's a great, rapid application development tool. We all know it and love it. And it has quite large user base with millions of apps that are being used all over the world every day. With that, when we are thinking about how we are investing in Access, we really need to balance, and this is the key word here. We really need to balance how we're making these investments, because we want to add things, new things, but we need to be very conscious of not breaking existing things and things that have been in the product for years, basically. We want to be able to fix fundamental issues. We want to be able to fix bugs that have been existing in the product for many, many years. And we also want to make it relevant and modern. So this is, and we're doing all of these things on a really mature product. This is a challenge. And every one of you who is supporting a mature application that is big and being used by a lot of users knows how hard it is to make changes sometimes and update and add new things. It's not a trivial problem to solve, but this is the space where we're working. I want to also talk a little bit about Office 2019 and Office 365, which we and the two different offerings. Office 2019 we just shipped. Basically, the main difference, and I know this topic in general with the subscription-based and the multiple versions of Office and Access out there, this is a source of confusion, and we've heard about this from customers, and honestly, it is confusing. You're not alone in this if you are confused. Basically, when we talk about Office 365, we're talking about subscription model. So this is a service that ensures that you always have the latest and greatest from all of the Office apps, including Access. So that means that you get monthly updates, including our bug fixes, including new features. This is very fast. This is a version that is changing a lot. So once a month, basically, it changes. But it also allows us to, so with being able to ship features on a frequent cadence, we're also able to fix bugs that fast if there are in the features that we're releasing. So some would say that, yes, this is less stable, and that's a fact. That's true. It is a bit less stable, but we are able to fix issues that come up quite fast as well. With Office 365, the things that you'll see, if you are a subscriber, you will have a new and improved link table manager that I'll talk a lot about later. You'll have new and modern charts that are an addition to the classic charts that we have in Access, and just lets you create modern looking charts and some new capabilities. And basically everything that you see on our roadmap is referring to Office 365 offering. With Office 2019, this is a one-time purchase, right? So you pay a single upfront cost, you get all the Office apps for one computer, and there are no upgrade options. That means that you only get security updates. There are no bug fixes, there are no new features, nothing new gets in the version of Office 2019. Office 2019 does include modern charts. So this one feature did slip into the schedule and is part of Office 2019. Just so you know, there's a link in the deck here to learn more about the different offerings and what they look like. And I'll share the deck with Juan, who will send it, I guess, to everyone or make it public later. So that's at a high level. When the next Office version comes, what it means is that we'll just wrap up everything that we are doing in Office 365 and ship it as a new Office version. So this is not the place where we're making the changes, the place where we're investing ongoing. This is Office 365. I am moving on.
All right, so just so everyone know, there's rings of Office 365. So if you don't see the link table manager yet, it could be that you're not on the right ring. Eventually, everybody in 365 will get it, but for now, I believe it's in preview only, right, Michal?
It's actually already hitting customers, but as you
Great.
said, this is another level of complexity. But there are different rings, so it is rolling out to customers. So it might be that it only part of our customers are seeing it, and others will see it a bit later. But it's within a few weeks, or everyone should get it. But yes, you're right.
Okay.
Okay. Next, I want to talk a little bit about, or I want to talk about the link table manager. So link table manager, and I wish I could do a show of hands of how many of you are using link table manager. Maybe you can tell me in the chat and I'll look at it later. But with link table manager, we heard a lot from our MVPs and also from other customers that it's just not the greatest experience. And it is very core to, so everyone who is using Access with a different backend, whether it's SQL or anything else, or even if you're using Access with local tables, but still want to integrate data from Excel, for example, or SharePoint lists, what have you, the link table manager is core and is very important to operate and to manage all of those linked tables. And what we've learned from customers is there are a lot of pain points. And we can bucket them into two different categories. One is functionality and the other is usability. In terms of functionalities, customers told us that there's missing functionalities. They would like to be able to add new links from the link table manager. This is the manager after all. They want to be able to delete links. Relink a connection to a new data source. Yes, there was a workaround, which was to delete existing and create news, but this is really this is a common scenario, or enough of a common scenario to be supported in a better way and a friendlier way. Customers also talked about the scenario where you are developing against a test or dev environment, and then when you want to distribute the application to a client, this is when you move the environment to production, basically, and need to change connection strings. Just the support for this did not exist with the old link table manager. Bulk rename is another thing that came up from customers. And then around usability, I'm a little embarrassed to say, but the first one is resize. People want to be able to resize a dialogue, and it just seems unreasonable to not be able to do it. But that came up as a real pain point for customers. We also heard about multiple prompts when you're refreshing, multiple tables of the same data source. You got prompted multiple times. If you had 20 tables, 20 times that you had to see the same message and hit OK. People talked about having this flat view, very, very long list of, or sometimes very, very long list of link tables with very little control of what it looks like. And then also status indication. Just want to be able to see what's broken, what's working, what links need my attention. We also heard a lot about the link table manager in user voice, and I hope most of you or all of you are familiar with this site, and but this is a platform to suggest ideas. This is just 4 of the first that I found, but there's a lot more. So people care about this scenario, and people have ideas of how it needs to be improved, and what are the things that need to be changed or just to be added, some functionality that needs to be added. So this just to show you that this was absolutely a top of mind for customers. This screenshot is actually from our support article, which shows the new link table manager. But instead of, and it highlights a lot of the things that are that we've improved and implemented with the new dialogue. Instead of going into this, I will actually just do a demo, if that's okay. So.
By the way, almost everybody used Link Table Manager. A few people
Okay.
did say they only use code.
Okay, great. So I have the right audience for this talk. That's great. Okay, so this database here, pretty simple. I only have link tables to different data sources. I have SQL, I have Access, I have Excel, and SharePoint. This is the new link table manager. Right as I open it, you'll see that the first thing that you'll notice is that it groups your data sources. It groups by data source. So I have three different I have connections to tables in three different Access databases. So I see them all here. This one is the one that I renamed. And then I have Excel. You can see the tables here. And SharePoint. By the way, if you remember, the old link table manager didn't show SharePoint lists, so now it does, and allows you to do the same operations. And then SQL right here. So everything that all my link tables are displayed here, grouped by their data source. And yeah, the first thing that I wanted to show you is really how you edit the name, because the one data source that I'm going to focus on in this demo is this one. So I wanted to make it rename it to have a different friendly name or display name, if you will. So what I can do is just select it and then click edit, and then I can just rename the display here. So it doesn't change anything in the backend. It doesn't change the connection string or anything like that. It just helps me identify or distinguish between all my Access data sources. What I'll do now is I'll select all my tables. Let me expand real quick. You'll see also right away that it is resizable, which is awesome. I can sense that you're clapping in your heads. You're clapping, I'm sure. But you can resize this. And then this is going to take a few seconds. It might look like it's hanging, but it's not. It's just working on it. But I want to refresh all my link tables. And what you'll see when this is done is that I get a refresh status for all of my tables. And we'll see how this status changes later when things don't go as well as I want them to. Well, yeah, there it is. So I see success. Everything was updated successfully because we haven't changed anything, and this is just the beginning of my demo. And with that, what I want to show you is what happens if the data source is not there anymore. So I'm going to, again, just use this one, the Access Demo LTM, which is linking to a Northwind database. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just simply rename it. This is the one. And I'm going to rename it. And when I do, let me expand it and select just this one table for demo purposes. I'm going to hit refresh. And the message that I'm getting is that we could not find it, obviously, because I renamed it. The status is going to change. So it's going to show me, and then on mouse hover on the status, I see the error message that I get. It's just the link table is not there. The thing that I want to do now is actually fix this, because I know that it changed and I know how, and I want to fix it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this new functionality that we have here for relink. It's basically, for everyone who's used to Link Table Manager, it's a combination of refresh and this small checkbox that the old Link Table Manager had at the bottom, where you're actually forcing it to prompt you for a location. So this is kind of similar, but not quite the same. So in this case, the data source is in a new location. The tables have not changed. I've not changed any of the table names. What I'm going to do is select the data source, click relink, and find the right data source. And what I'm being asked here is, do you want to relink the selected tables to tables in the new data source? Now, we've gotten feedback that this string, this text is a bit confusing, and we are trying to see how we want to rephrase it. But in essence, what this does is it basically asks you, so the scenario is this: the data source has changed, right? We renamed it. Now the question that remains is, what happened to the tables? Are the tables still the same, or have the tables changed too? For some reason, are they called differently? If they're not, and this is our case, then I can just say no. I don't want to relink the tables, because I'm fine with the names, with the tables that are already there. I'm just going to say no, and then it refreshed. And now the status is back to success, and we're fine. Juan, I'm seeing my Skype kind of flashing. Is there a question for me, or are we on top of everything?
I can see that it's a success. Does anybody else see the success there besides Steve? All right, he sees it now. We're good.
Okay.
All right.
Right here. Okay, cool. So this was actually the first scenario where relink helps me. Relink helps me if the data source has changed, but the tables are the same. Now the other scenario is, what if the tables are in the same data source, so the location is the same, but the tables have different names. So for that, let me just open the Northwind database that I'm connecting to. And I'll close this. And these are the three tables, the purchase tables, and I'm just going to rename them. Let's just rename two of them. So remember, I didn't change the location or the name of the database. I just changed the tables, two of the table names. So if I try to refresh now, it should fail, right? Yes, because the tables are not there. So I see two failures, one success. What I want to do is fix it with relink. So relink will ask me to select the data source, which is fine. But then what it does, and this is a bug that you see up here, but what I'm being asked now is to say, okay, this is the table that you have, purchase order status. What is the new name of the table, of the new table? And this one I know hasn't changed, so I'm just going to leave it. But this one changed to be demo, and this one changed to be demo. And as I change, I can see the status changes to success because it was able to refresh the schema. Cool. The next thing that I'll show, this is the third case where relink is helpful, is the data source location has changed and also the tables have new names, which is very, very similar to what you've seen now. And I think you can guess what it looks like, but we can still do it anyway. So I'm going to rename, not only am I renaming the database, I'm going to also rename the tables. So this is like the worst case scenario of everything, right? Everything changes. Rename. By the way, you can open the link table manager with right click, and also notice that we added refresh just for this specific link on right click. This was also a request coming from customers.
Nice. I love that.
It's the simple things, huh? The
Yes.
small things. Yeah. Where were we? Here. So this one, we weren't in a relink because it's not going to be, we cannot use it the way it is defined right now, where it has LTM1 and 2 demos. So selected the right data source. Now it asks me again, do you want to relink? And the answer now should be yes, because I know that the names have changed. And this is again the same dialog here, where I just need to edit. So I need to know, I'm expected to know the names of the tables, and I'm done. And this is success here for refresh.
Okay.
The last thing that I want to show here is the edit button. So edit button, really, I started with the edit, where I showed how you can rename or change the names of, or the display names of a data source, just for ease of use. But then the other thing that you can do with edit is you can edit the connection string without validation, without running any kind of validation, meaning you can manually change a connection string, and we will not try to refresh, get the schema, do anything. This is useful for the test versus production environments. So you're developing against the SQL Server, which has your test and test server data and connection string. And then just before you want to give it to your customer and you know the information of their connection string, you can just type in the connection string information, and it will not fail. So it will just continue to work. We'll just update the connection string information. So it makes things a bit easier, and I'll show you what it looks like. So it will look a little different for each of your data sources. For Access data source, it will just let you choose a different file name. So if I know that I'm passing this on to someone else, then I can just do this, and that's all. It changed the connection string. It will also change it in the sysobjects table. So when I give this to Juan, and I hope he has, and I know that he has the same file in this location, he will refresh and it will just work for him. Just note what it looks like for SQL. It will look a little different. This is where you're expected to know what the connection string looks like. This is where you can add all your tokens and information about the connection string and just manually edit it. And we will not try to connect. We will not try to use this information. Was there anything else? Yes. Last thing is add. So we want to make it easy. We say this is the link table manager. You should be able to add new links from here. However, this will allow you to create a new. First, you'll need to create to give it a new name, the data source. And then there are three options which are fully supported in the sense of we are making it very easy for you to add, for example, access. So this is a file name. You can browse. You can add password if needed. Or you can, for SQL, for example, we give you this prompt of the ODBC driver where you can just select the server and put in your information, and it will create the connection. For Excel, we again let you browse for a file name, and then custom will let you type in a connection string. So basically, you need to know pretty much. This is really for hardcore developers or for people who are used to doing this all programmatically. Maybe they'll find this useful. So you can enter any kind of connection string here. So if this is a text file, this is what you need to put in. If this is dynamics connection string, this is the type. This is the format of your connection string, etc. So we try to help with this string. We know this is really for developers and not for beginners. So this is, but you can do it from here. Was there, let me see if I had anything else I wanted to say about the link table manager. I don't think so. Are there any questions?
What about the situation, I think you alluded to it, but I just wanted to go over it real quick again, and that is I often have to switch between a beta SQL Server database and a production SQL Server database, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in that case, if I want to switch my data source, I just go in there, select the SQL Server, and then modify it, right? Instead of having to change all the tables, I just do the source right here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what you'll need to do is just give it a new server name, a database name if it's different. But as long as the tables, as long as the schema of the database is the same, is identical, this is the only thing you'll need to do. And it will just be able to connect to the new server using this connection string.
Okay. So we got a lot of suggestions, guys, and I appreciate all the feedback you're giving here in terms of using combo box instead of naming. This is a first attempt by the Microsoft Access team.
Yep.
They did a great job, and I was one of them pushing them to get this out to the public as soon as possible.
Absolutely.
We saw this at the MVP Summit. This is one of those things where I can't comment, but I told you I love what I saw, and then it came out, and then I was able to do talk more about the LTM. But we needed something, and we needed it bad. And so I applaud the decision to release it as it is. I love what they were able to accomplish. I see some great ideas such as color coding and drop-down boxes. And I'd like to do what you guys to do what Dan did. He went to user voice and he submitted those suggestions,
Oh, yeah.
and we know, and Michal can confirm this, that the Access team does read your suggestions.
Yep. Yep. I was gonna say this a bit later in this presentation or conversation more. Everything that we do, we sit here, we talk to our MVPs, we talk to our customers, we try to get as much information from the community of users as we possibly can. But then at the end of the day, we sit here and we try to do what we think is best, which is not necessarily really the best thing. We love to get your feedback. We'd love to get your feedback. There are so many ways to do that, and I will get to how you provide feedback and how you keep in touch with the product team later on in my presentation. So I think I'm going to switch back to this. We did the demo. And then the next thing that I wanted to mention, and I don't know how many of you had a chance to either try out the new modern charts or look or view some of the presentations that were uploaded online that I gave recently about charts. But for the sake of the ones who don't know what I'm talking about or have very little knowledge of what I'm talking about, I'll briefly go over modern charts, and I won't spend too much time here. But when we talk about charts in general, I think, charts and graphs both, they tell a story. The information that they have in them helps people get insights on data, and also to make informed decisions, basically, based on the data that they're showing and based on the information that they're displaying. So basically, charts help people really understand the significance of data just by placing it in a visual context. You can provide, when you're presenting information, when you're presenting data, you can show tables and figures. You can talk about percentages and numbers and relationships between different data points. But there are good chances that the point that you're trying to make will get lost if you're not using some kind of data visualization. And there are tons of them out there. This is just a handful that Excel supports today, but there are tons of different ways to visualize data. When we talked with customers about what's needed in Access for data visualization, we heard a ton of feedback. These are the 6 key points that we heard from customers. The first one being that this is being able to display data in a way that is meaningful and also modern. This is a key scenario. We heard from developers, from Access developers, that because this is yes, Access is all about data, but as I just said, data without having this, just having data without having the ability to display it in a meaningful way that will help people see insights or get insights, it's just so much less powerful if you don't have data visualization. And we also heard from developers that this is a good selling point. So when they come and they pitch a prototype to customers, to their customers, and they want to show what are the great things that you can do with Access, if they could have a really nice way of showing reports and forms that have graphs on them and charts on them, this would be a good selling point for customers and to getting more business. Again, show of hands on Skype, who's used pivot charts and who still relies on pivot charts. Pivot charts is a really painful spot for everyone who's ever tried them, because a lot of our customers really develop this dependency on pivot charts. There's so many applications that use pivot charts, and with their deprecation in 2013, we just created this gap in terms of data visualization in Access. When people talk about pivot charts, they talk about two things, basically. They talk about being able to interact with a chart, so to change the layout on the fly, in runtime, and then they also talk about being able to transform the data and create a pivot, basically. We also heard about the need to keep Access in general, and specifically charts, current and modern. The entire chart engine that Access used hasn't been updated or hasn't been touched in years, and the ask to keep Access in current and modern is a common theme across the board. People also talk a lot about the design experience, which is not native to Access. So if you ever, once you're done going through the wizard to create a chart in Access, this is where you're pretty much and you want to edit the chart that you've created. This experience is something so external to Access that it really requires a new tool set and requires you to learn something new, and new editing language, if you will, that is not what you signed up for, or not something that you know already in Access. And then we also learned, we always knew that export to Excel, that people use Access, to integrate data from different data sources, and this is the hub for data from all of these places. But then when they needed to create a report to show at a business review or to show executives, this is when they would export the data to Excel and use Excel's capabilities to generate charts. And I think, so this was not, we knew that. I think we were really surprised by how common this scenario is and how many people actually do that. So with this learning from our customers, we give you modern charts now in Office 365 and also in Access 2019. There are 11 chart types that are supported in this modern world. One of them is brand new, so to Access, this is a combo chart, which allows you to combine two different chart types in one chart. It has all these charts have a great modern look and feel. They're very much Excel-like, if you like what Excel is doing. Actually, we're using the same engine. So it's the same engine that Excel is slowly transforming their existing charts to this new engine, and also adding new charts that are based on it, and we use the same one, so it should look and feel quite familiar. We're also introducing a really nice friendly user experience, both to create new charts from scratch with a new pane that is called the chart settings pane. Chart settings pane allows you to bind data to a new chart control, but also to edit some of the settings, some of the properties of the chart, especially the ones that are related to data series. So if you wanted one data series to not be blue but be orange, this is where you do it. At the same time, all of the chart properties are supported in property sheet. So everyone who got used to working with the property sheet and loves the property sheet, all the chart properties are there, and you can use them both. So everything is very much native in Access. You don't need to go to a new canvas or a new tool. It's all in. It should be very friendly and easy to use. And last, these charts are interactive. They transform your data, so they pivot around whatever you want them to pivot around, and then programmatically you can actually do what I hope you can see this in this small video. But programmatically, what you can do is change the layout at runtime. All of the charts properties have object model support, so you can using VBA you can basically change the layout of the table, of the chart. You can change the colors, you can change its entire appearance just by using VBA. So they're interactive. So everyone who misses pivot chart, I strongly encourage you to give this thing a try and see how you can basically recreate your pivot charts with modern charts. With that, if you are interested, I really strongly, again, encourage you to watch this year's Ignite presentation, where I presented charts, and a customer that co-presented with me, their company have an application with around 50 pivot charts. So they have 750 forms, I believe, and then 50 of them are pivot charts, and his entire company was using Access 2010 because they couldn't upgrade. And then we met with him just earlier this year and showed him pivot chart. Showed him modern charts. He was so excited. He's a developer, so he just got in it, jumped right in, and he actually was able to automate a lot of the process to migrate an existing pivot chart to a new chart. And he's sharing all of this code samples in our blog, and he shows everything in the demo. So if you are interested, if you are still on 2010 just because of pivot charts, no more excuses. You can upgrade and enjoy the new modern charts because they'll give you exactly what you need.
Wow, he created a tool to migrate the charts. I did not know.
Well, this is what he was doing half the work for us. So
that's great.
Yeah. The nice thing really is that he shares all of this code. So take advantage of it.
Good.
We
had a question. I'm sorry, we had a question from a user who has on Office 365. He doesn't see modern charts. Could it be that it's still propagating?
I'd be surprised. Let me switch real quick here. And if I start a new form, the new chart, the new modern charts will be here.
Oh, okay,
so if
good.
You look for them, if you look for it here, this is where you get the classic chart. Please note, and this is a great question because I didn't quite say it in so many words, but we're not taking away classic charts. We're adding this capability. I think we've learned our lesson about taking away stuff. No promises made, I'm just saying, but we added modern charts, and this is how you do it. I'm so proud of it, I'll just have to show you. This is the chart settings pane. This is where you select your table, for example. So let's customers. I don't know if this even makes sense. Obviously, I didn't prepare this one. Let's see if there's something that is more. Yeah, so let's do for X's. So the one thing that you can notice right away is that this is design view, right? And the data changes. This is not the regular, north, west, east, south kind of thing, or quarter, whatever we give you for Classic. It's not sample data. This is real data. So expense month is going to go with the X's, and then bear with me. Let's do amount for value, and then we can also split this by category. So this is design. This is design. I mentioned the format tab will let you change. So if I want to change my education category to have a different color, for example, that's not a great color. Let's do purple. Then I can do it here. I can add trend lines. I can rename my education. Let's say this is high school education. So I'm going to rename actually the way this is labeled. There are tons of things that you can do here. And then also, the property sheet. So the property sheet will let you do under format. So under data, you can see the transformed query here, and then which fields go into the axis, legend, values, and then in format, you'll see everything else. So you can change the chart title, for example. I'm just going to call it demo, and see how it changes right away. And then when I switch to form view, it's the same.
Nice.
So I think this is super cool. And so check it out. And also don't forget to check out the combo one, which is really brand new, and the classic charts didn't have them.
So this is another argument for using Office 365, right? Instead of buying the package off Access 2019, because as they add new objects in the insert chart, you'll get them in Office 365.
Absolutely. So, people are asking for new chart types. People are asking for, map chart type. If at some point we do something like this, it will not be in the 2019 right? It will only go to Office 365. So you're absolutely right. There are many requests for charts. I'm already starting to think about charts v2. Every property that we'd want to add. So it doesn't have to be a new chart type. It could be just even a property support. For example, and I'll tell you that currently we don't have grid lines at all. And this is a request that came from a lot of customers who have tried this already. So even if we were to add a property for grid lines, it will only go into the 365. So you're absolutely right. This is exactly the incentive Microsoft and Office is trying to create for people to be on subscription model.
Good.
Okay, going back. So I promised I'll talk about our roadmap, and I will. There are two things that are on the horizon, near future. One of them is black and dark gray themes support. This is actually, are we November? November. This should be starting to roll out to customers as we speak. So again, think about the rings, and not everyone gets it at the same time, but this is slowly going out to customers. It's been an ask for a long time. Please write to me in the chat window if you're happy about this or not. I'm quite curious to know. The other thing on the roadmap is a new data connector to Microsoft Graph. And if you're not familiar with the Microsoft Graph, this is...
Finally, awesome.
Yes,
Making
I know.
worldwide news headlines here.
Right? Yeah.
Making headlines for Access User Groups. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So Microsoft Graph is really a great, it's a unified way, it's a single gateway to a lot, I don't want to say all of, because I'm just afraid of saying all, but a lot of the information that Microsoft and Office manages for you. So for example, Outlook, calendar and messages, OneDrive items, groups, users, teams, everything that has to do with devices and meetings, etc. So the graph basically gives one single gateway where you can, using the graph APIs, you can just reach to all of these endpoints. We think that that allowing users to integrate local data, or to integrate data that they're using in Access with graph data, so Microsoft data, this will unblock a lot of scenarios for productivity. First phase is coming real soon. We're going to expose a certain set of endpoints, and then based on your feedback and based on usage, we are going to add more endpoints and make more services basically available.
So I'll give you a common scenario from Microsoft Graph. This is why I'm so excited about this, and that is when you have when you design an application that's using SQL Server, I always advocate for the customer to create domain groups that are then validated in SQL Server. So when a new employee starts, and that employee, for example, belongs in accounting, I just tell the IT manager, just put the name in the accounting group, and then that will give them the rights and access for that, right? So they can go create invoices, they can do payments, but they can't schedule a product in the production run because they don't belong in the production group. And so what I'm currently doing is I'm using APIs, and instead I can use this data connector, and it's just a table read, right? Once I do the table connector, I open the table for groups, and I read a record, and I'm done. Much easier.
Yep. And of course, it will be manageable. All the links that you'll create will be manageable with the new link table manager. So that's just another plus.
Yes.
Let me open real quick. Should have it open up here. So this is our public roadmap. Note again, this is from Office 365. But this is all of the Office apps roadmap. They revamped this site, and what you need to do now is select Office 365 and then Microsoft Access. And what you see here are things that are currently in development, things that are rolling out, and things that we've launched. We try to do a good job of keeping this updated. Honestly, it's a bit behind. So there are more things in development. I guess that's what I'm trying to say here. But basically, it does give you a pretty good understanding of what we're doing and when things are supposed to be rolling out, and in which phase they are. So I think this is, I don't think you can subscribe to this thing, but maybe you can. Yeah, you can. But check it out from time to time. It's a great source of information. And if you know that for all the MVPs in the audience, if you know that we're working on something and it's not there for some reason, just ping me. I'll make sure it's there. It's just hard to keep track. Yeah, community engagement. This one is very close to my heart. I think it is super important. I love doing this, and I think it is crucial for success of any product, big or small. We're not building these things for ourselves, so yeah, it should be trivial. I shouldn't spend time on why it's important, so I'll just talk about how. We respond to feedback. We look at feedback. We are eagerly looking for more and more and more feedback. There are two main ways you can provide feedback. One is the in-app feedback that you simply provide here with the smiley face, or I think they also added under help a feedback here where you can just tell us, yes, I like something, I don't like something, or I have a suggestion. If you are on an Office Insider, which is one of the rings, one of the very early rings in Office 365, then I can assure you that on a weekly basis we go over all the feedback, all the actionable feedback that we get from Office Insiders. Everyone else, we're also looking at it, but since it's just a huge volume, we rely a lot on machine learning to give us actionable information. But if if you don't submit any feedback, we can't train the machine. So we need feedback in there, and we're looking at it and looking at trends, looking at areas which are problematic. We're opening bugs. We're communicating through the tools that we have with customers that are using the smiley or frowny, whatever you call it, face here. I have a suggestion. We'll send you to our user voice site. I think Juan mentioned it before. This is our user voice site. This is a suggestion box. People are encouraged to submit ideas or suggestions that are for Access Desktop only. There are currently 705 ideas here. There are some ideas that are brand new. This is for example, this one is for the new link table manager. And there are others, there are small, there are tons of ideas here. The important thing is that you can vote. So when you log in, you have, I think, 20 votes, and you can spend them however you want. This is something that we also look at very often, and we take it into account in our prioritization, in just understanding what people are asking for. I will just say that although we are looking at this very often, just to set the expectation, we don't update status for everything just as often. 700 and something votes are very hard to manage. But still, it is very important. Juan can testify for it. He's running a few campaigns in parallel as we speak.
Guilty, yes.
Yes.
I mean, look, the number one thing is, when you vote for something, I always tell people leave a comment, right? Why is it important to you? I remember I had a conversation once with a manager who's no longer with the Access team, but then it worked on Microsoft Access. And I suggested something, and he says, Juan, why is that important to you? Because they need that feedback. They need to understand why these things are good. So not just vote, but also comment, and they'll see the comments.
Yes.
By the way, Microsoft Office Insider, one of the things that you may not know is you get 5 copies of Office 365 licenses when you get your license, right, on Office 365. So what I do is I'll have a copy that's on the stable version I use for developing my clients, right, because I don't want to be cutting edge when doing work for my clients. And then I have a virtual machine using Hyper-V where I do the Insider track. And so you could, in theory, use that Office 365 license for both environments, one for development and one for Insider track, and try out the new features and provide feedback. Like you said, Michal does look at that stuff when you're on the Insider.
We are, and you know what? This is really the best way for us to have this validation right when we ship a new feature. You know how I talked about shipping fast and fixing fast? But if we ship fast and we don't know that something is wrong, or we don't have enough usage on these early rings, the problem is just propagated, or a bug is propagated widely, and that hurts everyone. That hurts the image of Access, that hurts, like, we fix it in the same rate, but it will just, obviously, again, it's better to just keep it contained. And the insiders are people who are willing to try out things super early, but they also get a chance, so they get a chance to provide feedback and also help us shape what Access and Office look like. So I think it's really important.
Good.
Second thing here is really around team visibility. We try to provide as much visibility into what we are doing as possible. So I already showed you the public roadmap. We also have a blog Actually, this is not just a blog. This is a new platform, not so new anymore, but this is a platform. It's called Tech Community that all of Microsoft is using. You have this. So this is our blog where we post news, we post articles about the things that we're shipping. This is all the Ignite code samples and information. There are customer success stories, if you will. So tons of things, interesting material here. And then there is also the Access discussion board. And this is where we have a lot of it's a lot of messages, a lot of conversations. I don't know that we visit this site a little less than anything else. To be honest, we do rely a lot of our MVPs to be here, and I think they are. So there are a lot of forums online that our Access users are used to going. We didn't want to create another place for them. So this is really more, and I think the first discussion here kind of explained this. Yeah, and we also list the other forums where we think you could get support for technical question. But this is really share ideas, some news. If you are organizing an event that you want to promote, you can absolutely put an Access event, yes. You can absolutely put this up here, engage with Access MVPs who are frequently attending this forum or visiting this discussion board. This is what you can do here. I think it's, again, another great source of information. Last two, I can actually maybe combine them. We try to do a lot of customer visits and interviews. I think really this is the best thing to do for a product manager and also for developers, to just go out, not sit in our offices in Redmond all day, talk to customers. Every time, I think I know the story of Access, but every time I go out and I talk to a customer, I just get a new angle or an interesting perspective, or just another interesting way of how people are using Access and the things that are important for them and the things that are painful for them. So we try to do these as many as we can. We also try to speak at users groups such as this one. We also try to attend conferences and Access days. And by that, I'd like to think that we are also encouraging the community to be more on the leadership side and to organize things. Just recently, a member of a community, an Access developer in the Netherlands, he just built an entire event, an Access Day, 9 to 5, full of presentations and content, and got all these Access developers together to network and share ideas. And he did that because there was nothing else in the Netherlands before, and he took the initiative and he went for it, and it was a huge success. And I think that part of it is because we are trying to attend these events, and I hope that more people are encouraged to do similar things. It doesn't have to be a physical meeting; it could be online, it could be virtual, whatever works for you. I think it's a win-win across.
Yeah, and one of our Access MVP, Miguel, in Spain has an event in Madrid every year, and it's usually around the end of May, beginning of June. So I'm going to leave the URL for that here as well.
Yeah, I think there are plenty of opportunities to network with other Access developers, and people should just take advantage of it. And we try to support these events and these gatherings, or just to support the community as much as we can. But if you know of an event, if you know of a place where there is a will where someone is, looking for an opportunity to set something up, let me know. I'll see how and if I can help, and I promise I'll do my best to be there. I think it's a good time for a Q&A.
All right. So Virginia, you had a question which was really good. Her question was, what if you develop with modern charts and you gave the file to a person who's on 2019 and doesn't have modern charts? What would they see? How would it react?
So the form will open, but the control will not draw anything. So nothing is broken, basically, but it will just not draw.
Okay, good. All right. So we also had some people talk about the programmability. I think you already addressed this yet. You can program the modern charts from VBA, right? All the aspects of the chart?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
So the interactive chart that we had like a small snippet of it. This is done with very, very simple VBA, because all the properties you can set them using VBA.
Okay. Now there was some discussion earlier tonight about the runtime. Jonathan was answering a question about if you're using the Office 365 runtime, that's maintained separately from the Office 365 Access. So I believe that if they update the McCallum group updates the Access version, the runtime will get later updates, right? They're not immediate. Am I correct? I might be wrong. Let me know if I'm wrong.
Yeah, can you repeat the question? I'm not sure I'm following.
In other words, when you release something for the Office 365 product, does the runtime get that new feature as well?
In general, yes.
Okay.
But there may be exceptions.
Yes, and that's why I always encourage people to test their application with runtime, because you just don't know. It might not behave exactly the same way. Mm-hmm. And I've learned that the hard way over the years, so always test. Any new encryption security features on the horizon? Michael, I'd like you to elaborate a little bit more. In terms of encryption, I don't know if you know this. For example, Azure enforces encryption to avoid man-in-the-middle attacks between SQL Azure and Access. And usually what I do is I use Azure encryption for social security numbers, for example. So, okay. He's giving us more information. So he's talking about the bypass the password protection in code and the Access application was circulating. Okay. So I don't know, Michal, if you can shed some light on this. I know there are people out there who have techniques to break the Access password, and that's why I always emphasize when you have some. I can't tell you how many times I walk into a customer site and they're storing credit card information in Access. And so the very first thing I tell them is, you got to get out of here and put it into SQL Server. So even if they break the front end, like Michael was mentioning, your data is still secure, which is what really is important, right? But do you have anything in regard to this by password protection and access that you'd like to elaborate with, Michal?
No, actually, unfortunately, no. I don't have anything to share about this. Security in general is something that keeps coming up. As you said, splitting the backend and the front end and using SQL as the backend is always recommended, or I would say it is recommended partly because of security reasons. There are different aspects to this. We're still looking at what we can do for this, and I'm happy to hear more, and I'm happy to read more, either on User Voice or on any other channel, about what you think for security. Also, coming back from Europe just a month ago, I know that a lot of folks are very much concerned with privacy around GDPR. So that's another thing that we're looking at and trying to see how we can help our customers build applications that are compliant with GDPR. This is becoming more and more of a concern around the world, but especially in Europe. So that's just another area that we're looking at.
Okay, very good. So Dan, you had a question here. Any chance will Access add would be added back to Visual Studio so you can use the .NET API for modern chart programming as well. I'm wondering if that's something that's in the ball of the Visual Studio guys and not so much the purview of the Access team, Michal.
Yeah, I don't think that's kind of out of scope for us,
Yep.
basically. Yeah.
There were some things that I thought the team was responsible for. One thing I learned the hard way this year was the VBE,
Yeah.
Visual Basic Editor. That's not even in the Access group. That's a separate group in Microsoft that maintains that IDE, Integrated
Right.
Development Environment. All right, any more questions, guys? These are great questions, by the way. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and I would love to get a copy of everything that we see here.
Okay, what about ADO? Klaus, very good question. As you know, ADO was deprecated and no longer it got undeprecated. I've written about that, and you'll see that in the official Access blog as well under Michal's purview. But there's the new version for SQL Server is now you need to install two files, and Ben Clothier wrote about that in our blog, so I'll put a link there. But ADO is still alive and kicking and will be with us in the future because they undeprecated the old ADB, which is what ADO uses. Do you want to elaborate a little bit more on that, Michal?
No, I think you're the expert on it.
Power Query, yes. Jan, it's interesting you mentioned Power Query because there's been some talk about that in the MVP community, and I've been slow to this whole Power Query discussion. I know there's several MVPs who have been championing it. Michal, do you have anything you'd like to add about that?
Yeah, this is not on our backlog. For a lot of technical reasons and others, but this is not something that we will be able to integrate into Access anytime soon. However, Json support, this is something, and Michael is asking about, this is something that also was brought up by some of the MVPs and also has a very active conversation in user voice. So JSON is something that we are looking at, adding a connector that can parse JSON. Yeah, this is absolutely something that is on our radar.
The problem with JSON is that it's not every application is a different data structure, right? So if I look at a JSON for stock, for a stock market, that will be different than a JSON for forwards preserves in the U.S., right? So it's a little bit more challenging.
Right.
But yeah, I would love to see that native ability, because the problem with JSON, and Michal and I, when we did the Ignite presentation 2 years back, I used JSON. I had to use a library that I got off the web to parse the JSON. So it's a little clunky, and I agree it would be nice if we can have a more native support for JSON. JSON. Not Jason, JSON. All right.
Yeah, for all of the people, all of the suggestions / questions here on the conversation chat, these are all great, and I'm happy to go back to the team and kind of bring them up. So keep on writing. I probably don't have good answers for all of them right now, but please keep on writing as we talk. And then also, please go into user voice and just search for the idea that you have, and vote and ask questions there. This is where we, when we focus on a subject, when we say, okay, now we're going to look at JSON and what it means and how we do that. This is a great source of information for us. So again, as Juan said before, also use comments. Don't just vote. Tell us how you use it. Why is it important for you? What are the things that are specifically? Because sometimes, I remember people who asked for a new link table manager. That was their suggestion, right? It's too broad. You can't really do anything with this kind of suggestion. But if you're more specific and you tell us about the things that are painful right now, if you tell us about the things that you're trying to accomplish, even just describing a scenario, that's helpful for us when we go back to our desks and kind of brainstorm what it is that we want to do.
So the thing you have to understand, guys, and girls, is that there's a limited amount of resources that Michal has, right? Computing power, programmers on her staff, and she has to do this triage of things. And so it's always important that you explain why it's important for you, and give examples, like you said, not just be generic. Because
Absolutely.
we push them too. I don't want you to think that we're just there for cheerleading, right? We're pushing them to do things as
Oh,
well,
yeah.
and they get to hear it once a year. We are actually going to be breaking bread with Michal in March of next year,
Yep.
and I already got my tickets and at the summit.
Awesome.
And it's 4 days of intense discussions, and we are not shy, right?
Not at all.
Okay. So we're gonna wrap up a few more questions here, guys. Let's see. Yeah, Mauricio did a great demo for Graph. Thank you, Dan. Dan has been the king of links. These are some great links that I'm going to be using. So thank you very much. I use GitHub. Maybe MS will build something like this. You know, I love that idea, Jan. And that the reason I say that is because um, Microsoft brought GitHub. And
Right.
so there's some mechanics happening in the background, and GitHub is a little tender because it's something that's used by a lot of people. So Microsoft has to be a little, you know, to pace themselves. I know they have a lot of ideas for GitHub, but we need to let Microsoft absorb GitHub first, and then we can see how they. I'm sure eventually. I'm not saying sure. Nothing is never sure, but I'm hoping that eventually we'll make it into Office and generals, right? So not just Access, but Office, and that way, Mikhail doesn't have to spend resources integrating with GitHub because it's at the Office level.
Again, also keep in mind, going back to one of the first slides that I showed you, this is not a new product that you start from scratch and the sky is the limit, right? There are certain limitations of the technology that is being used, and there is also limitations that are just based on the fact that so many people are already using this product. And by all means, I'm not trying to make excuses. I'm just sharing some of the considerations that are going into our triage process. Honestly, sometimes we see bug reports coming from customers, and they're doing a great job of giving us repro steps for us to be able to reproduce in our offices. And we go over the steps, and yes, the customer is right. There is a bug. Absolutely, there is a bug. And then we end up not fixing, and we can fix it. And sometimes even the fix is super easy. But we're not fixing it because we know that this bug has been in Access for forever, and probably there are a lot of users who know about this bug and have workarounds. And if we fix it, their workarounds may break. And so this is just one of the things that we need to think about with all of the things that are coming in. Just keep it in mind. It's complicated. It's even more complicated when I think it's even more complicated when you're talking about such a mature product.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Mikal, for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it. We had a great turnout. Thanks to everyone who came and participated. Great questions. We love having you, and we would love to see you again next November here with some more great stuff and making news worldwide. And I look forward to seeing you in March.
Yeah, I'd love to be here. Thank you for inviting me. And thank you
All right.
everyone for joining.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Again, this has been Juan Soto live from Chicago, Illinois, Access User Group. If you got here through Twitter or LinkedIn and you like this presentation, and I'm sure Mikal will appreciate this as well, please comment on LinkedIn or Twitter, tweet about it.
Oh,
You
yes.
can reply and even mention Mikal's name at Michal Bar on LinkedIn. And her profile is in the announcement. And share the world and make everybody envious that they were here tonight. All right. So thank you very much once again, Mikal. And
Yep.
so long, everybody. Have a great
Bye.
evening.